Mothers and daughters, that unbreakable bond. We may start out attached by umbilical cord, but there is that invisible umbilical cord that I suspect is there no matter what the relationship with your mother, until the day that she or we die. So here's to that special relationship. I just wanted to get this in because I'm really anxious to get out the video for you on the topic of mothers and daughters. And again, as I say, it's the start of February, and it is a month that is about love. And for most of us, if we're lucky enough, the first love in our lives is our mother. The first person that we see who holds us and nurtures us is our mother. And if we weren't lucky enough to have that in our own lives, and we learned a lesson for ourselves about that, it is something that we can take on when we have our own children, if we have them, and we know how meaningful it is to be a mother. So I'm going to say for this, just enjoy it. These are some photos that were sent to me by some of you, pictures either of you and your mother at any or various stages of your life, or pictures of you and your daughter. So enjoy this kind of quick trip down memory lane, and let's celebrate the women that we are, and the women who have raised us, and the women that our daughters might have become or are in the process of becoming. And I will see you on the other side. If you're a mother, do you remember the very first time they put that baby in your arms and you absolutely loved this little creature, and you felt as if your heart would burst and you couldn't understand? It was such an unbelievable love for somebody else. I want to honor that feeling today with some photos that were sent in to me by some of you, and I thank you for that. Showing pictures of you with your own mothers, or in some cases you and your daughters. And let's celebrate that love that there is between us, and enjoy once again those moments pulled from time that we remember so very well. If there are any stories that you have to tell when you see this video, by all means share it with us, because these are the very special relationships. My own relationship with my mother was a wonderful one. My mother was the most caring, nurturing, loving woman. Harried much of the time. She worked very hard. She was the one who took care of the world. She was the eldest of her siblings, and she had 2 living sisters and 1 living brother. 2 of the children in that family had died as children. But she was the one that everybody came to with any problems that they were having. So she was that kind of person. She was the woman that the kids in the neighborhood came to, and they would sit on the floor, and she would be sitting there and telling them things, and just, again, taking the world in. Another thing that was so special about my mother is that in all of her life, or all of her life during which I knew her, never ever once heard her gossip about anybody, have anything bad to say about anybody, even when they really deserved it. She was just that kind of person. After my mother died, people came to me and said, "I loved your mother." It was hard for my mother in many of the last years of her life because she was rapidly losing her hearing, and it made her feel very isolated. If you want to talk about an isolating experience, that certainly was. And she felt at the butt of people's jokes sometimes because when she couldn't hear, what she perceived that was said was sometimes funny, having nothing to do with the words that were spoken. But now, coming from this vantage point, I wish I could have hugged her every time that happened and have said to her, "It's okay. I know what you're going through." And yes, the words were funny in response to the things that were said, but it was not a laughing matter. So for my mother today, wherever she is, she's probably still taking care of everybody on the other side as they came over to join her. And I sure as heck hope that she's there waiting for me when it's my turn. I hope for the rest of you that you had wonderful experiences, and I know not everybody does. I've had some friends who just had terrible experiences with their mothers. They either couldn't function as a parent, or they didn't have the wherewithal, or they just didn't know how to love. And that's kind of sad when you think about it, and that's a whole other discussion. But I think for a lot of people who didn't have the nurturing of a mother, wanted to be very nurturing parents. So I think sometimes the benefit went to their children. There's so much we can say about mothers. There is so much we can say about mothers and daughters and that very special bond. My mother died when I was in my mid-40s. And on her deathbed, she said to me, "I've lived a very long life." And I said to her, "Just not long enough." And that was the truth. She also said to me on her deathbed, she pointed upward and she said, "They're fighting very hard for me." And I said, "Can't you tell them that we're fighting very hard for you here too?" But in all fairness, my mother had had a heart attack, which is another whole story. But she was in the hospital. I worked in a hospital at the time, and I slept there the whole time she was there so that I would be there if she needed me at any time. My mother gave me so many gifts. She gave me the gift of knowing I was loved. She gave me the gift of knowing that I had value. She also always used to say from the time I was a little girl how terrible she felt for me that I didn't have a sister, because she had a sister with whom she had two sisters, but one of them was only a little over a year younger than she was, and they were very close. And it was a very meaningful relationship for her, and she so wished that I had had a relationship like that as well. So I think about that often. But letting go of her was hard. But the interesting thing was, at the end, she had suffered a lot that last week that she was in the hospital. And I remember thinking, as much as I want you here with me, I don't ever want you to go through this again. And I finally said to her at one point, I held her hand and I said, "It's okay. You can go." And I whispered in her ear, "Go softly into that good night." And it was within moments after that that she actually did die. So I believe with all of my being that she heard what I said to her, and she knew that I was giving her permission. I would say if for any reason at all she wanted to stay, it would have been for me, because my brothers were doing well and they were all okay. And so in honor of every mother, yours, mine, and every mother before us, before them, and yet to come, this is for them, and this is for you.